Okay, good morning. We're up to Reish Nun Gimel Sif Gimel. Hamashkim Baboike. Someone wakes up early on Shabbos morning, and he sees that his pot is burning. And he's worried that it's going to burn out. It's going to burn more. He's able to take. What should he do? He should take an empty pot and put it on the kira, on the oven. And then he takes the burning food and he takes it and puts it on top of this empty pot. And that's okay. Make sure you don't put it down on the ground, because this is going to be considered that otherwise it will be in a sinah lechatchila, and that's not allowed. And make sure that it's still hot, i.e., all our conditions from previously, make sure that you've complied with them. And then the brackets, we said that we are noig lahakel, even if you put it down and you put it on al gabi karka, we are noig lahakel. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Yeshana. So when you wake up in the morning and your cholent is burning, or if you're going to leave it till lunchtime, it's going to. Oh, here's Yossi. And you leave it till lunchtime, it's going to, it will be burnt. So you want to take it off and just put it onto the kira. So you're allowed to do it, but he says you should take a kaderi yeshana to put it on top of that. So why yeshana? Says the Mishnah Berurah in Sif Cotton Ayin Tes, avol chadasha also, not a new pot. The mislabe nalidei achoim, because it will harden through the heat, and v'nas is kli gemura alidei zeh, and that will fashion it into a kli, and that's a problem because it's makor patish of the kli. And it says the Mishnah Berurah, v'kader shlanu shekvan nigma tikunan, but our pots which have already completed, you buy it from a shop and you get a new pot, that's already completed. We're not particularly worried about sort of finishing off a kli because you're exposing it to such heat. And therefore, but either way, the Machava says take a kaderi yeshana. Reikonis, an empty pot. Yeah, because if you've got food in that pot, you can't put it on the kira afresh on Shabbos itself. If it's not guard for cotton, you haven't got the other issues. Al pia kira. Why? Because thereby you are making the oven into garfa cotton. Because the kadera is covering the mouth of the oven. And therefore you can take the pot which the food is overcooking, is burning, and you can put it on top of it. It's because to do chazara, because remember your pot is already on the flame. So to rearrange the blech, as it were, to put from one pot onto something which is gar for cotton, is mutter. So too with our ovens, where you've got a flame inside, you're allowed to place something on the bits of the parts above the tanur, because you've got your gap, you've got your hefsek between the kadera and the eish, and that sort of serves as the blech, as it were. And if you put in a kochlin in an oven, what's that? What did you say? Yeah. Fine. It's not enough just to do that. You've got to do something a bit more and put a piece of wood or a board as a hecker that there's like this is gar for cotton. And then put the kadera on top of that. V'chein masha b'soif simen b'merma, and Magen Avraham b'soif simen reishon tes b'dinei shehiyah v'atmona shehetzi gam kein b'maril u'mashma sham d'alidei heka dova hamafsik muta afilu etzim lechatchila b'Shabbos. If it's a very clear heka, then that will be allowed on Shabbos. V'ayin b'chilush b'kiveiga sham. Okay. V'chol zeh k'shatav shadayin cham b'lenisana, and that's only true. You can only move it when it's still warm. Also mishum bishul im yuchel lischamim shoya yad this way. If otherwise you've got other problems. If it's gone so cold now that you're going to heat it up to Yad Saledis boy, then you've got other problems of bishul, more serious problems. Shelo yas imuchad el b'dinei chazara v'shetia risachas v'aynel Mishnah Bura sif katan and dalet nagu lahakel and then it's done legamrei. And that the Ramah says that we are noig lahakel unless it really has cooled down legamrei totally. Okay, that we'll get to Mr. Hashem in Shin Yud Ches. Okay, let's do Dalet. And then we'll talk about the mice and the practical. What happens if you see your cholent is burning? What to do? So says the Mechaber in Dalet. Yesh limchos biyad hanagin lahatmin boydyoim kumkum shel mayim chamin. That you should protest against those people who are noiheg to hatmin, to insulate, to do hatzmana from before Shabbos. A kumkum shel mayim, some sort of flask of water, hot water. And then you pour it into a kadeira b'Shabbos kashatavshem istamik, when the dish is sort of burning and is shrinking and it's dehydrating, and to do that we're worried about that. Ayin lekam on siman shin yud ches. So this is more shin yud ches territory. But let's see what the Mishnah Bura says. Sif cotton pei dalet hanagin lahatzmin rotzolema shemechinin boijay mayim chamin. They prepare hot water before Shabbos. Because if you've got a pot of food and you want to pour the hot water into it, then that will prevent it from drying out. And the Shulchan Aruch protests against that. What's the concern? Because maybe one is hot and one is not. One is Yad Saledis and one is not. You're cooking. V'ayin ba'achreinim shekasu d'lefi ma sheyivu elekamon b'siman shin yudches sif tesvav b'haga t'anu nogim ka'poskim t'im lo nitztanim legamrei, then unless it's cooled down fully afilu b'dov olach ein b'mishum bishul oid, because we hold ein bishlach habishul, once it's cooked, and therefore unless it's nitztanim legamrei, it's totally cooled down, then we're not worried about it. Even though it may have gone to lower than Yad Saledis boy, and now it's being warmed up, Gam Kain Shari, because at the end of the day it was previously cooked, and therefore we're not concerned, so long as it's not Listan and Legamre. That you've got some vegetables in a dish, and you're pouring hot gravy from meat onto the vegetables. Since the vegetables or the beans or whatever are in a klisheni, you're pouring from the klirishon, which is the first, which was on the fire. You're cooking these kidneys. Therefore, you've got to say that these kidneys were cooked previously, and therefore, so long as it's not nistan legamrei, that would be okay. If you see the Ramah, the last few words in brackets, it says ayin lekam shin yud ches. Says the Mishnah Bura, maybe that's what he's referring to. I.e., is giving you a little nod to say don't be machmer about this, because at the end of the day, so long as it's not nistan legamrei, we're not worried about any further bishul. That even though you shouldn't protest against those who are makel. That he says it's better not to pour from a klirishon onto to these things in a klisheni. Ki'im bekaf. You should use a ladle. How does that help? Because then the ladle becomes the klirishon, the klisheni, and therefore you're pouring from a klisheni onto these things, and therefore that makes it much better. And this is the Shin Yud Ches territory. We'll come to all that in a second. If, however, it's all cool totally, and then you should avoid that totally unless you use some sort of ladle. Now, we'll just finish with this. Hey, we'll do tomorrow, Mr. Shem. But what taka happens if you wake up Shabbos morning and your cholent is drying out? What can you do? So I remember this was again one of my smicha questions, and this is really what you should do. You take your pot, your cholent pot, off the crock pot, holding it the whole time. Sometimes you need a second person to help you with this. It's quite hard to just technically to do it. And you can actually pour. People don't realize this, but you can actually pour from your cholent is fully cooked. So there's no real bishul problems anymore. However, you're not allowed to add, you're not allowed to stir a pot which is al ha'esh, because that's either a gezerah or you might come to actually cook something which is not fully cooked. So you can't stir anything which is al ha'esh. But if you take it off the esh and then you pour water into it and you do it directly from the urn, then that would be okay. And I've done this once or twice before. You've taken it off the crock pot, you hold it, and you take it and you put it near the urn. You open the tap of the urn, and then the water goes in, and you do it slowly. That it shouldn't, because otherwise it sort of you could violate the halacha of megis, of stirring. Because if you add it too quickly, it's like considered megis, and you do it slowly, and therefore add water to the urn that way. The eitzah I remember adding in my faher was, and he was very pleased with this, is that you shouldn't put the cholent bowl too close to the faucet, to the tap of the spigot of the urn, because then the steam goes up, and then that could make it fleshik. So you got to be careful with that. So okay, but that's a boss of a cholav issue, not a Shabbos hilchah Shabbos issue. So the kids, you do that. You take it off the crock pot, hold on to it, and then you remember having in mind all the chazar tanoim. It's gar for kotzim and it's, all the rest of it. Don't put it down, and then you turn the tap on, and there's a bit of a gap, so you probably end up with a bit of a mess on the floor and splashes and stuff. Okay, at least you've got a nice cholent, and then you can put it back onto the crock pot. That seems to be the eitzah. That's what emerges from this. Okay.